Hey everyone, we are kicking off Fleet Week. We are bringing folks in. There's a few folks that are in the lobby that we're going to bring into the call here in a second. So bear with us as we're bringing folks in. It looks like everybody's here. All right. So for those of you who haven't met, my name is Steve Forkham. I'm Director of Program Management here at SIPPIO. And I'm really excited to welcome you to our first ever Fleet Week. It's a week-long digital learning event where you'll get to meet and greet with customers, with some of our, calling and beyond partners to learn how you can go beyond calling and actually enable true conversations in your next generation platforms, and how you can learn the benefits of this momentum change in how we all communicate and collaborate, leveraging platforms like Teams and Zoom and other things. So some of you may be asking, what is Fleet Week? Fleet Week in 1935, the first ever Fleet Week was held in San Diego. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt ordered the U.S. Navy and our allied countries to bring the naval fleet into the city for the week, with the goal of promoting the U.S. Navy and its activities to the public. And in a skeptical world, we were in between, the two world wars, and it was more of a community outreach effort. And today, Fleet Week is celebrated across the country, and it's widely seen as a form of engagement, recruitment, community building, and education. The public is welcomed to tour the ships, to meet and interact with the sailors that come into town. And conversely, the sailors are invited to meet the community that they're serving, the community that they're protecting. And overall, it's just designed as an event to celebrate and to better become connected with those who protect and serve and those who are protected. So we at SIPPIO trace our roots back. We're founded in Annapolis, Maryland, one of the central hubs of the nautical heartbeat of our country. And we believe that our inaugural Fleet Week can accomplish similar goals. We're bringing together industry experts, our exciting fleet of calling and beyond partners, and you, our end customers, to provide a week of digital learning. Our goal is to continue to expand and to better engage with our community of customers, partners, and service providers. And for those of you who are curious about the future of business communications and collaboration, you're going to learn how you can better leverage Teams or Zoom, whichever platform you've already adopted, because that's the key here. These things are transitioning into features of platforms that you're already using. The days of evaluating these as standalone services are pretty much wound to an end. And by migrating to this concept that communications is just a feature, you're going to see how you can lower your costs by up to 45%. How you can increase productivity for your end users through consolidation of infrastructure and applications. And most excitingly, you'll see how you can harness the incredible innovation that's happening on these platforms. Generative AI is totally changing how we work and how we communicate, and how you leverage it during your conversations, whether they're phone calls, whether they're text messages, whether they're video meetings like this, really can help you gain insights. It can help you earn back time in your day to actually do more productive tasks. And it's going to really change how you and your staff ultimately communicate, work, and produce. So with that, I'm really excited to share our agenda for the week. So we have a whole week of events set up for you. Today, we've got our opening keynote. We're going to be joined by Jeremy Friedberg, one of our customers at Friedberg PC. Then we're going to be joined by Zayas Karavala, principal researcher and founder of ZK Research, and Taimur Hussain. He is a market principal at Microsoft, who will give us some insights onto the service provider side of Operator Connect and some of the updates that are coming to Microsoft. Later this afternoon, we've got another great session. This one's targeted for end customers, but it's open to anyone, to really kind of understand, how do I leverage Teams or Zoom, whichever platform I'm using, better? How do I start to see some of the standalone IT infrastructure that I've adopted over the years as features in a common platform? And how do I realize the benefits of that? How do I lower my operating costs? How do I increase my investment, the value of my investments in those platforms? What's the impact to my end users from a productivity perspective with one super app instead of a jumble of tools in a toolkit? and how do I harness this new innovation, and how is it really changing the game for what is a phone call, what is a communications method, what is a conversation. Tomorrow we've got a, excuse me, an industry analyst exclusive event in the morning. We're going to provide you some updates. We're going to talk a little bit about, where we are, what we've built out, and where we're building. And then we've got an innovation roadmap for our analysts. And then in the afternoon, we're going to have a full roadmap session with our Director of Innovation, George Tarzai. He's going to be joining me, and we're going to have a discussion about the SIPPIO roadmap. We're doing some really interesting things, or planning on doing some really interesting things with generative AI to help you help our partners make it easier to quote services, to help end users make it easier to configure and make changes in their communications platforms, and a host of other really exciting stuff that's coming. Then on Wednesday, we're dedicating this to our channel partners and our service providers. So in the morning, we've got a session set up for service providers so you can understand more about how to accelerate and grow inside of the Operator Connect program, whether you're looking to enter the program and using SIPPIO as an accelerator, or whether you're already in the program and you're looking to figure out, how do I leverage my existing infrastructure to augment, to enhance it, to extend my reach using network services that are in countries that I don't have coverage? And how do I use the power of automation to help me accelerate my sales velocity and help me grow my business? We're going to have a similar session in the afternoon for our resellers and our channel partners. So you'll learn all of the key benefits of why Microsoft Teams and Zoom, helping your customers better leverage those platforms, is an opportunity, not an obstacle to selling some standalone product. Thursday is dedicated to the fleet. So we're going to be joined by a variety of our Calling and Beyond partners, starting with Tango Networks to talk about the power of mobility. We're going to be joined by Tollring to talk about SIPPIO CX for those customers who don't need a full-blown contact center, what you can do with their platform and our joint solutions. Then we've got our friends from Solgari joining us to talk about those customers who do need a digital contact center that's built into Teams that empowers any employee to become a customer service champion using AI and a fully integrated solution. And then in the afternoon, we're going to invite Alex from Clerk Chat to join us to talk about the power of conversations, of leveraging our SIPPIO text messaging product to go beyond calling, to enable text messaging, to enable WhatsApp for Business, and shortly Apple Messages for Business, to better integrate your customers with your employees, whether it's a one-to-one conversation, a one-to-many, or a shared inbox. Then on Friday, we've got a partner exclusive event to talk about what we just released today, SIPPIO Bridge. So you'll get all sorts of information from our General Manager and Chief Operating Officer, Don Marie Elder, on the value of SIPPIO Bridge, how your customers can best leverage SIPPIO Bridge, and how it can help you as a partner succeed in this tight and dynamic growing market. And then we'll have a closing panel Friday afternoon to just kind of wrap up and share some of the learnings that we found from these events. All of these will be recorded. So if you're unable to join a session for any reason, you'll be able to jump on to catch up to what you missed and to review it later on if you need to invite a friend or colleague over. So let's talk a little bit about SIPPIO. At SIPPIO, we believe in making technology fast, easy, and flexible. We built a cloud-based platform that gives you the ability to quickly and easily enable service in Microsoft Teams or Zoom. There's no shortage of folks that can turn on external calling in Teams or Zoom, but only SIPPIO makes it as easy as shopping on Amazon when you're trying to quote it. Our automation layer turns on new service in minutes. It's faster than signing up for Netflix. And we give you the flexibility, because not every organization operates in a single environment. Many of you are operating in shared environments where you've got some Teams and some Zoom. So having a nexus point, our platform connects to both, giving you the ability to support your end users with whatever tool that they choose, while giving you the benefits of that cloud communications environment. But then in 2024, we saw the opportunity to go beyond calling, to not just enable calling in Teams or Zoom, but to enable conversations. So we've built out a library, and this is continuing to grow, of third-party best-of-breed partnership solutions that give customers more optionality, more ability to serve their customer base with the tools that they need inside of a common toolbox, whether that's Teams or Zoom. We started by announcing SIPPIO Mobile by Tango Networks. This is our fixed mobile convergence solution that turns your cell phone into an extension of your collaboration platform. So if you're using Microsoft Teams, you don't need to use an app when you make an outbound call on your platform. When you make an outbound call or receive a call using SIPPIO Mobile by Tango Networks, and you have call recording turned on, or if you're a part of a call queue and that call gets delivered to you on your cell while you're on the go, say you're a frontline worker, all of that stuff is captured in logs. So now you can gain those actionable insights. So we're better integrating the mobile workforce of tomorrow, where calling is really going to be crucial. Then we announced a partnership with ClerkChat. So we announced SIPPIO text messaging by ClerkChat, and this gives customers the ability to have not only text messaging, SMS, MMS, inside of Microsoft Teams, but it also gives them the ability to communicate via WhatsApp, shortly Apple Messages for Business, again, with my personal phone number or with shared phone numbers, like say a help desk, so I can have multiple people monitoring those. And they're adding AI to their platform, which will give customers the ability to support AI chatbots on text messaging. Not everybody's going to use a browser. So you'll have the ability to support your customers sending you messages on any of those platforms and having an instant response using generative AI. We built out the SIPPIO CX platform. So this is designed for customers who need to engage with their customers using Microsoft Teams and having the flexibility to say, if you don't need a contact center, you don't need the cost of that. I've got a help desk. I've got a call queue that delivers calls, and I'd like to get some actionable insights from that. Maybe I'd like to record those calls, but I don't need a full-blown contact center because my people aren't sitting at a desk all day. Then we've got a solution for you. SIPPIO Reporting, SIPPIO Recording plus AI gives you the ability to gain those actionable insights from what has happened and what is currently happening in your call queues, so you can better service your customers and you can better equip your employees. We partnered with Solgari for the other end of that spectrum, for those customers who need a contact center. You know, they're engaging with their customers across a growing array of digital channels, and they want to leverage AI, but they also want to adopt the contact center within the same platform that they're already using in Teams. Solgari fits that to a T. They also share our passion for speed, so they can get new contact centers up and running in hours, and they can empower any employee in an organization to be a customer service champion, leveraging AI across the entire customer interaction surface. So it's an incredible toolkit that we've built out over the last 6 to 7 months of this year. But I'm really excited today to share with you SIPPIO Bridge. So those of you who may have noticed, we announced SIPPIO Bridge this morning. This is a solution that bridges your past with your future. It gives customers who are leveraging on-premise phone systems and leveraging platforms like Microsoft and Teams a more gradual transition to these platforms. You can run on your speed. So if your customer is running a legacy platform like Avaya or Mitel or even Cisco, and they're using Teams or Zoom, and these things are like on different sides of the canyon. You know, on one hand, I've got this legacy infrastructure. It's not really portable. It's not really built for mobile. It's built for purpose. It's in my place. A lot of iron, but I'm just not quite ready to move off of it yet. Maybe I'm under contract with things. Maybe I've got a whole host of other reasons why I can't necessarily move calling to the cloud yet. But on the other end of the spectrum, we're using Teams, we're using Zoom, we're leveraging these platforms for messaging or for video, for pieces of it. And I want to see how I can better leverage the capabilities that are native to these platforms. You know, calling is just a feature in these platforms. Messaging, AI. So how do I better leverage this? How do I do this in a more supportable transition? Because not everybody can do a flash cut. Not everybody's ready to just up and move over to the left, even though as easy as it can be. Sometimes contractual realities get in the way. Sometimes just overall project strategy gets in the way. This is why we build a bridge across the canyon to give you the ability to get the best of both worlds. So using the SIPPIO Azure native platform, We can deliver calling capabilities to your existing PBX systems. So this way, when you're ready to begin that transition to your next generation communications platform, you're already on the platform you need to. No number ports, no dealing with contract renegotiations. All you do is log into the SIPPIO portal and just change your platform from your legacy infrastructure to whatever you're looking to move to. In the meantime, we can add more capabilities to your existing deployments. So for example, if you're using an Avaya phone system and you've got your folks using the desk phones, but they're using Teams and they'd like to be able to communicate with their customers via text messaging, we can do that for you using SIPPIO Bridge and SIPPIO text messaging by Clerk Chat. Now inside of your Teams environment, those phone numbers can be SMS enabled to enable outbound communications, not just on SMS, but also on WhatsApp or shortly Apple Messages for Business. So SIPPIO Bridge, check it out. It was just announced today. We're really excited to give more and more customers the ability to plan their transition to what their future of communications looks like, but to do it in a more supportable way. The way you cross a canyon isn't by jumping it. The way you cross a canyon is by building a bridge across it. That's what we've done. So really exciting stuff. Now what I'd like to do is welcome one of our customers, Jeremy Friedberg. He's a partner at Friedberg PC, to join us to talk a little bit about his experience using Microsoft Teams and how SIPPIO helped him move quickly to that platform and improve communications at the firm. Jeremy?
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on. Morning.
Hey, Jeremy, do you mind turning your video on for us?
My video is on.
I'm not sure what we're not seeing it, but we saw it before the call, so I'm not sure what's going on. But at any rate, Jeremy, can you tell us a little bit about Friedberg PC and what you guys do over there and what makes you guys unique?
Sure. We're a boutique firm that. Thank you. Somebody can see me. Good. We're a boutique firm that focuses mainly on business law and specifically private equity, hedge funds, portfolio acquisitions, that sort of stuff. High dollar amount transactions, and we have a niche in that kind of practice because we practice also litigation on some of these portfolio acquisitions or act as general outside counsel to operating companies. So it's across the board kinds of things. But what makes it unique is that our firm's practice is nationwide, and also EU, England, and a couple other countries. So having a system that really works well for us to communicate with clients and to be able to avoid having to travel as much because we have a good solution for conferencing, it was really important to us. So
Jeremy, reading through your website, one of the things that struck me was when you talk about what makes your firm really unique for your end customers is that you want to deliver quality legal services, but you want to do it at reasonable pricing. And the way that you do that, you connect the dots. You say, look, our professionals and paraprofessionals have access to our databases, to all of our pleadings, no matter where they are, any time of day, any access connectivity they have, and the ability to basically support that remote workforce has helped you deliver high quality legal product, but also at reasonable prices for your clients.
Correct.
So when you were looking at your legacy infrastructure, it seemed to kind of run counter to that mission. Platforms like Teams and Zoom were spawned out of the pandemic. Everybody was able to instantly work from anywhere. But a lot of organizations like Friedberg couldn't necessarily communicate as easily because the legacy PBXs were stuck with the rotten bananas and people's lunch that were in the refrigerators when everybody had to kind of scatter home really quick. And you, like most customers, were saying, all right, now I need to look at what do I do for communications. You've adopted, in your case, you guys adopted Teams, but a lot of organizations were looking at that. Talk to us a little bit about where else the phone system that you had was falling short for your mission at Friedberg.
Absolutely. So reliability, uptime, and security for a law firm, it's critical.
Mhm.
You can't have insecure access. You can't have something that's going down all the time and something that doesn't have redundancy built into it. So we were on a legacy system with Avaya. Originally, it was a PBX system. We were IP Office, and we had to have a terrestrial server, power backups. It was not secure, and we ended up losing. If we lose power, we lose phones. If we were out of the office, we would lose access to voicemail. It was a real problem. Plus, we had to the investment in the product was really high. I had to have a separate IT, phone company managing our solution, managing our servers. We had to buy servers to keep in our office, and it was just expensive. And it really didn't piggyback very well with our technology investment, high-speed internet, stuff like that, because it was a PBX system. We switched to a cloud-based solution for Avaya Office, and while that was better, it required a pretty heavy IT investment still in headsets, new headsets, desktop sets, and also we had to have uh, powered cable to every desktop set. So it was a pretty heavy investment, and we still had a lot of problems. The host instances for Avaya Office were not were not secure like Azure. We got hacked. A lot of customers apparently got hacked, and had issues with people spoofing and using our numbers. And administering it was very difficult. Just wasn't easy, and it was all counterintuitive for us. So
So it
we
was
made
really a heavy investment. Even if
it.
it was a
It was
cloud-based service, it was a heavy investment in
it was
time, in specialized knowledge to manage the system. And then to me, the biggest challenge that you guys had was downtime.
correct.
If a solution's not available, I'm a Massachusetts guy, and I'm a Bill Belichick fan, and he used to talk about his players' abilities, and he says the best ability is availability.
Correct.
And you guys ran into that challenge. Pretty much there was a crisis in the infrastructure. Is that right?
That's correct. And we lost all of our voicemail. We lost our phone service for a while. It was, so people would call and just get a busy signal, and
Hmm.
that's for a law firm. That is just the kiss of death. It's impossible. The forwarding to our cell phones wasn't working. It was just a mess. And SIPPIO really has done a great job with for us, moving us over to the Teams product. And I was very, very hesitant. I didn't know what this product really did. I didn't understand how Microsoft could do telephones. Wasn't a huge fan of Teams pre-pandemic. I am now. Um, and SIPPIO really showed me what the product could do, and I was completely sold. And we're up for renewal with Avaya, and the decision was easy. It's cheaper. It piggybacked on our existing high-speed internet. We didn't need desktop sets. We didn't need powered cable to our desktops. And using the legacy solution at home, every person had to have a powered router. I'm sorry, a powered switch to
Yep.
power the phone in their office when everybody's wireless at their houses. So it was
Hmm.
very difficult to make it work at home. So it was a very easy sell once I got past my hesitance over using Microsoft my telephone, and not having a handset. So it's been a fantastic solution for us. One of the best features is for us is the ability to set up conference calls with audio and video. So if
Hmm.
somebody's not in the office, they can easily get in over, who's called in. They can just dial in just like a conference line, and everybody who wants to can come in via Teams, or they can just dial in on their existing service. It's very flexible, and it's cut down on my travel time immensely, and also allows me to have face to face with clients and other counsel, even courts, and mediations. Everything's able to be done remote. It's completely solid. Has not gone down on us at all ever. Plus, it's in Azure, so we know everything is highly secure. The other really great thing is it integrates with our Office 365
Hmm.
infrastructure. So I can now I can auto dial now. I don't have to cut, paste to dial into IP Office because it didn't integrate with Outlook at all. So, those kinds of things just make it so much easier to use. Plus, the mobile solution is much better than Avaya's mobile solution because
Hmm.
it's just using Teams. So I'd say really happy, and I will say the cutover was painless.
Hmm.
It was up and running, and it was up and running right. Every time we put in a trouble ticket with SIPPIO, I get an answer within minutes. If it's adding a new user, changing some of our services, questions about how to configure things, SIPPIO
Hmm.
is very responsive on their customer service, which in this day and age is kind of nice. You're not on hold yelling representative for 15 minutes
Sure.
into the phone, which
So,
I might have I
it's
might have done
interesting.
once or twice. So,
I think we've all been there, especially if you tried to fly over the last few
yeah.
days.
Yep.
So, you hit on a few things, and I think one of the things that I think is where I want to start the talk about is the speed of the transition. You had said, "Hey, I was a little apprehensive about this whole thing. I'm used to what I knew, desk phones, and now all of a sudden this is a whole different animal. We had the outage that we had to, kind of get you back up and running quickly with." I think the combination of obviously us with our automation, we were able to turn you up quick, but I think the bigger effect is the fact that you guys were already using Teams. So you didn't really have to do a lot of end user training or really
Correct.
the speed of adoption was a lot faster because it was something you were already using. Again, it was just a flipping a switch to turn on another feature in something you
Correct.
already had in place.
That's a great point, Steve, because lawyers are notoriously late adopters and
Hmm.
hesitant to use new technologies. And for my team, it was absolutely painless, especially because people were working from home during the pandemic, and nobody could tell you weren't in your office because your number is your work number, and you don't have to give out your cell phone number for if you didn't want to, it just completely seamless. So really,
So
it was a very easy cutover, and much easier than I thought, and much easier to use. Everybody here had no issue, and nobody here is a computer person. We're just attorneys and paralegals, and it was easy. Nobody had any problems.
sure. So you mentioned on mobility, and I think this is another key element for your firm, and I think just most organizations can kind of feel this. Post-pandemic, during 2020, we were all sitting at our desks. The whole idea of supporting cell phones and mobility was kind of that was pre times. Before COVID and everything else. Mobility was so crucial, and then in 2020, it just disappeared because again, we were all chained to our offices, locked in our homes. Um, since that time we're back to being a mobile workforce again. People are back on the road, people are going seeing each other, people are out and about, and the ability to reach someone no matter where they are, no matter what device they happen to have in front of them, is front and center for a lot of organizations. And you touched on mobility as a benefit to the firm. Can you dive a little bit more into that and share, what your experience has been using
Abs-
Teams?
Absolutely. So if you have a speaker and just a speaker and a microphone, your office phone is wherever you are, which is just
Hmm.
fantastic. So I can either use an earpiece and I'm out of the office, but people don't know that I'm not there, or I can work from home. People don't know I'm working from home, but it's completely seamless. Uh, and for us, the mobility part is great, and having the Teams client on your cell phone
Hmm.
really is very, very easy to use, and we make great use of it. And the ability to, with little things such as our old conference bridge, you couldn't tell who was on the call. There was no security. If somebody had the dial in, they were in. So that to us that was very disconcerting because client confidence and privacy and confidentiality is touched on what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we had one conference line, anybody could dial into it if they knew the number. So having separate meetings like this is really great, and the ability to be on a call and share my screen run through a document with somebody, so I don't have to be there, and we don't have to exchange 47 drafts because we can work on it together. Plus the ability to chat while we're on these calls is just great. Really, really helps.
That's I think really powerful stuff, and I think that's really where the next generation of communications is going is the cell phone. It's becoming increasingly where calls happen, but having it fully integrated with Teams, to your point, ensures privacy, it ensures compliance, it ensures maximum in flexibility, while also giving you the ability to have a more natural experience. So I know we've talked a little bit about mobility and what's coming with SIPPIO Mobile, and I know you're excited to kind of try that out. And I
Yeah.
think that'll be the next phase for you as a firm is having your cell phone just be your desk phone.
That absolutely, and the other part of this is having everything in Azure environment.
Oh yeah.
We know it's secure. It's hardened. There's no insecure ports. There's no, all the stuff we saw with our old setup. I'm comfortable that we're about as secure as we can get with our communications, and that's great.
That's awesome. So, I just one last question, and I think we've touched on a lot of this, but if you had to distill it down, what would you say have been the three key benefits for the firm in using Microsoft Teams as your communications, collaboration, meeting, your all-in-one platform? What would you say are the three key benefits that the firms realized from it?
Cost of ownership and the investment we had to make was very, very reasonable, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to having to buy a lot of desk sets, server, all that kind of stuff. And the ability, I think, what everybody here really likes is the ability to have dial-in conference calls, but through Teams, so people can either participate by microphone and camera, or
Mm-hmm.
using their phone, and that's huge for us because we have nonstop calls every day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's having that ability to have it integrated with a click of a button through Outlook, so you don't have to type in, here's our conference bridge, here's the password. It's all done for you. It saves you, all those steps, which doesn't seem like much, but when you're doing it all the time, it's a real savings. So that's what I would say for us, a really important stuff.
Yeah, calling is the lifeblood of a legal firm. At least, the firms I've worked with in the past, if you
Yeah,
can't communicate with your clients, then what are you doing, right?
correct.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your
Of course.
experience in using Teams, and look forward to seeing what you guys unlock with mobile and some of the other things that we're doing. So again,
I'm
thank you for
definitely
joining us.
definitely looking forward to seeing the text capabilities, and also
Mhm.
obviously mobile products. So when it's ready to go, give me a call.
All right, we'll have to talk to you after this call.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. So now what I'd like to do, and I see Tamor's already come off video, and Zayas, if you could join us. We have a expert panel put together. These two gentlemen I've known extensively. I've known Zayas for years. I met Tamor since joining SIPPIO, and these are just two of the brightest minds that I know of in the industry. So I'm really excited to have them join us today for an expert panel. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper. We heard about Jeremy. We heard right from Jeremy's mouth of the benefits that the customer sees by using Teams as their next-gen platform and consolidating everything down. You heard Jeremy talk about cost savings. You heard Jeremy talk about productivity and mobility. I'd like to invite Zayas and Tamor to share a little bit about what they're hearing from channel partners and resellers, from end customers. Zayas interacts with a who's who of the Fortune 100. And Tamor is obviously from Microsoft. He's more engaged with the platform and the product. Tamor also does a lot of work with our service providers, and I'd like to get that perspective from all of them. So let me start really quick. Could each of you just do a quick introduction of yourself, what your role is with your prospective companies, and what your areas of expertise were? I might have stolen a little bit of your thunder there, but Zayas, you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm Zayas Caraval. Thanks for having me on, Steve. I'm a longtime industry analyst. I run my own research firm. I cover a pretty wide range of technologies. I focus primarily on markets that are in disruption. So within the context of communications and networking and security. So my coverage tends to ebb and flow based on where we are in different technology cycles. So as you can imagine right now, there's a lot of focus on AI and how that changes communications and and things like that. There's been a pretty big overlap more and more, with my domains of security, networking, and communications. I think historically those things have been treated as almost in silos, but everything's a network service. Everything's needs to be secured. So those are coming together. Before that, I was actually the chief research officer at Yankee Group. I was there for about 10, 11 years. Before that, I was actually an IT pro. So I've deployed a lot of this technology here. So that's a quick intro on myself. Do you want me to talk trends now or just wait a bit, Steve?
Let's wait a minute. Let's give Taimur a chance. Yeah. Taimur?
Hey, Steve, thank you so much for having me as well. So my name is Taimur. I look after some strategy work on the more go-to-market side on all things M365, which of course includes our Office Suite, Teams, and Copilot. I have been with Microsoft for, oh my gosh, it's going to be 16 years very soon. Prior to that, I was with Cisco. I've been in the communications area for 25-ish years. When people were doing voice over frame relay, I don't know if anybody remembers that. I doubt it, but
I actually tried doing voice over frame relay back in the day.
There you go. So we made
Cisco 3810.
Yeah, there you go. 3810. I was, 36. Yeah. So basically, been around in this area for a while, but obviously enjoyed the sort of the transition all the way from traditional telephony to IP telephony to UC and all of the joys that came around that. So thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. I think this is an interesting panel because we all have a lot of different experience, but we also have a lot of different perspectives from previous roles that we were in, previous companies we worked with. So Zayas, you and I have known each other a long time. I know how embedded you got your finger on the pulse of the industry. Let me just start. What's your feeling on the future of the UC market?
Thanks for bringing back those memories, Taimur. That some painful deployments back then, trying to do voice over frame. It's funny, Steve. A lot of what the last speaker talked about is very apropos today, right? There's UC has been, especially cloud UC has started off really as a small market, mid-market play. It's moved up market. Obviously, having Microsoft in the market has allowed it to reach a broader set of companies, and that brings with it a different set of problems, right? I think if you're a pretty small company, being able to migrate 10 users, 20 users, 50 users, things like that isn't that difficult. But when you think about what large companies go through, especially now with what happened in the last couple of weeks with CrowdStrike and Paris wire cutting, there's more focus on diversity, security, protection, things like that we didn't often think about in communications. I think historically, even before I was an analyst, I was actually at a VAR. Again, those domains of networking and communication security were all kept separately, and now they are coming together. And so when you think about the future of UC, I think it's being treated much more like a true network service, and that brings with it a lot of other challenges. I think even the last speaker, when he talked about his migration challenges of having to go from the legacy to cloud, right? Those aren't uncommon things to hear today, where again, when we were down market a little bit, those weren't as prevalent as issues today. So I actually think it depends on how you look at UC, right? Is it becoming a commodity? Isn't or wherever. I think very few things in the world become a commodity. I think as long as companies like Microsoft keep driving innovation into it, we'll continue to have more and more interest in it. And I think it's finally reached that phase where the place in the industry where it has become almost ubiquitously deployed. And now it comes down to companies being able to figure out how to leverage these things better to improve their business processes. So it's, but clearly I think the big pivot, Steve, here has been the move up market. I think if you look at a lot of Microsoft's numbers, for example, they're seeing a lot more enterprise deployments. And, like I said, that brings with it a different set of challenges that we just didn't have in the industry before.
Yeah, and I think in my experience talking with partners and customers, it reminds me a lot of the Steve Jobs keynote when he unveiled the iPhone. In 2006, Apple was selling a ton of iPods. And in 2007, Steve Jobs gets on stage and he talks about how, they were going to unveil three revolutionary products. They were going to unveil, a widescreen iPod with touch controls, and instantly everybody saw what that looked like in their heads. He talked about a revolutionary internet communicator and a magical mobile device. And he let those words kind of hang in the audience for a few days or a few seconds, a few seconds. And then all of a sudden he says, "Are you getting it yet? These aren't three separate products. These are one product." And I think over the course of time, technology follows this life cycle where things used to be standalone. Sometimes they're hardware, sometimes they're software. And then they eventually just become a feature of something else. The center of gravity changes and they get captured into that different orbital pull. And I think, one of the things that's driving the adoption of this market is calling, is like meetings, is like, these used to be standalone things that IT, leaders considered, evaluated, piloted, adopted. I think by and large, they're becoming features in something else. And that something else happens to be your collaboration platform, whether it's Teams or Zoom.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think we're expecting more out of these tools now too, right? I think they're, I think it's interesting. Microsoft's been, taking a lot of lumps of, for bundling it and unbundling it, things like that. But I do think when you think about at its core, what UC is, it's a collaboration tool that needs to be embedded with all our other collaboration tools. And so users do expect more, they want more. I actually think while the pandemic created a wave of interest in it that we wouldn't have seen before, I do think generative AI has created yet another wave of interest that's allowed us to broaden the use of these tools to users that historically would have been challenged to use it. So I think all that innovation has been really good. And like I said, I think it's still far from being commoditized. I do think the price is settling to a point where it's becoming more standardized. But I think there's still a ton of room for innovation, both on kind of the meeting side, but also on the calling side. This has been one of the big misnomers in the industry, that calling's dead or whatever. Gartner put out a report saying that, but I mean, voice is alive and kicking. In fact, I've talked to companies, they're seeing use of voice as, higher numbers than they've seen in a long time. Now it's changed, right? We're not picking up the handset making calls. We're doing them more on our mobile. We're doing more meetings, but there's a lot of voice communications out there.
Yeah, and I think you just hit on something that I want to come over to Tamor on. Generative AI and this whole idea of commoditization. Commoditization happens when you enter this sea of sameness, where everybody's got the same features, the same capabilities. And I think we're kind of seeing the seas part a bit. The legacy guys, they're commoditizing because it's just selling phone service. It's just selling voice. And on the other side, you've got companies like Microsoft, and our friends at Zoom do the same, but Microsoft with Copilot is really reinventing what a phone call is. So Tamor, Copilot obviously has become one of, if not the fastest growing solution in the Microsoft portfolio. Can you share a little bit about what you're hearing from service providers and other audiences about Copilot, and specifically on the service provider side? What's the impact on the Operator Connect marketplace been since that launch?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm actually going to go backwards a little bit for
Sure.
history and context. One of the things that's super interesting to me is that we started the conversation historically about all the transitions that we've seen telephony go through. And all of these transitions, whether you went from copper and TDM or analog to TDM or then to SIP and then IP telephony and all of that kind of stuff, they were some compelling use cases for the exact same experience, right? You're still, picking up a phone, maybe hearing a dial tone or not, and maybe dialing a phone number, and you're getting through to the other person over voice. So that experience hasn't really changed for 30 or 40 years. The infrastructure may have changed, which may have provided more agility, more flexibility, more security, and those kinds of things. So it was really more of a seasonal change. However, what we're seeing now is a really, really large, compelling change. And I'd like to talk about that for a little bit.
Sure.
So when we think about Copilot and generative AI or any other large language model, right? We're thinking about sort of artificial intelligence and the data set that it provides information based off of. And that data set is based on signals that it receives and learns about, and then it provides sort of this distilled piece of information to you. And that's only as powerful as the signals that it receives. And so when we think about it, we think about sort of Office 365 as the largest state, which has all of this information or what we call signals about a certain human being and their productivity and collaboration environment. And that's really, really powerful. So when you think about Steve or Zeus, who has calendar invites, they send emails, they work on documents, they talk to people within their organization or outside their organization, they take meetings for a certain amount of time. Those are all signals that we learn from. And then based on all of those signals, we can make some really cool informed decisions. And that's really where the power of AI comes. When the data set is large enough and is all encompassing, we can do a lot of really great things in it. Now, if you leave telephony out of the data signals of something like a Copilot, for example, you're leaving a lot of information behind. But when you bring telephony into the fold of something like a Copilot, you can then make a fully informed decision about who you talk to, how long you talk to them, what do you talk to them about, and what is supposed to be surfaced from that conversation. So it's not just, oh, Steve emailed with somebody, and so I know about that, and I know the actions that came out of that. It's also Steve had a phone call with Tamor, and now I know about that, and I can bring that into my large language model. So it's super, super compelling now to think about how telephony falls into the greater productivity and collaboration space because it is yet another modality or form of communication. We shouldn't be leaving that out. And Copilot by itself and generative AI by itself, we're just scratching the surface, right? We can just start to think about some initial amazing use cases. We see some really great use cases in Teams meetings. You mentioned in Teams phones, the ability to generate summaries and action items and so on. Imagine this use case, right? You're driving to work. Everybody drives to work, or they take a call while they're walking in the park or working out in the gym, or any of those scenarios where you take a call, but you're not in front of a intelligent device. Maybe you're on a headphone. Now imagine that phone call when you return back to your productivity space, whether it's a laptop or a mobile phone or a PC. You are now able to take that conversation and revise it. You can listen to the summary or take a look at the transcription. You can take a look at the action items from there. It persists way beyond what that phone call would be. So I don't have to remember what Steve said. I know I'll have access to all of that information. Really, really powerful and compelling use cases coming for phone as well as for meetings out of Copilot. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, we published a blog post, and we're running a series of these pieces of content, just talking about how Copilot is really reinventing a phone call. And we at SIPPIO recently hired 2 new account managers, and I'll tell you, they've hit the ground running. We found the right candidates, and part of that reason is because we really leveraged Copilot. During the conversations with them, we asked Copilot, or I did specifically, give me 5 questions that'll help me identify this candidate's curiosity, their entrepreneurialism, the traits that I think are important for this type of a role. And then post discussion, to your point, it deals with what I call the horizontal use cases, the write a summary, write a follow-up email. So this way it saves me time. But the real value came from the insights, what I call kind of the vertical use cases. So based on this discussion, what's your level of confidence that Krisanna is going to be a successful channel account manager here at SIPPIO? And it was mind-blowing because it would give you, I have a medium to high degree of confidence, and not every candidate got that. That we talked to, there were some candidates where it said, hey, I have a low degree of confidence, or I have a high degree of confidence. And it would lay out the reasons why. These were the things that Krisanna said during the interview. But then it also said, these are some areas of concern that you want to keep probing. And it was interesting because it didn't just say, well, this was said, this was said, like something reading a transcript, but it also went beyond what wasn't said. When the discussion went here, they didn't talk about what toolkit they would use to build this program, for example. So we used that as we were going through these hiring or through these interviews of candidates. And all the managers that interviewed would ask Copilot the same questions, and we shared the same data. And once we found candidates where Copilot in multiple interviews said, "Yeah, I've got a high degree of confidence this is the right candidate," it helped us actually make better hires. And I think the value is there for service providers who are looking to kind of accelerate their Operator Connect business to really understand this. And also, I think channel partners. So Zayas, similar question. What are you hearing from channel partners or even the customers that you speak with? Have they figured out how to embrace Copilot, how to better leverage it, whether it's, a customer adopting the product and seeing an ROI? Because there's been a lot of talk about, hey, this isn't free. It's not a free feature necessarily with Teams. And in the channel, there's a lot of talk of AI, but I found that a lot of the channel partners are still trying to kind of figure out where does the best fit. How do I capitalize on this? So, what are you hearing?
Yeah, obviously some have, some haven't. It's a bit of a mixed bag right now. I do find the topic of the $30 a month sort of interesting because um, I guess in some ways you see that and you get a little bit of sticker shock and go, holy cow, it's another $30 a month. But if it saves you, even a couple hours a week, to me that's almost a no-brainer, right? I mean, the nobody wouldn't pay for that if it actually
Mm-hmm.
did that. Now the question is, how do I get it to do it? And I think all of us, a lot of us in tech, I think conceptually understand how generative AI works, how to use it, but even then, the first time you play with ChatGPT, right, you don't get great results, and then it takes you a while to learn how to ask it and what to ask it. And I think this is where we are with Copilot today. I think that we're still early in the cycle. We're going through a learning phase. Some people I've talked to, like I know you, Steve, jumped all over it, right? They're at a
Mm-hmm.
pretty quick learning curve, but other ones haven't. And I think we still lack a lot of best practices. I think it's a great opportunity for channel partners though to help bring it in, understand where to use it, where not to use it. What type of workers would get most value out of it. I think Taimur's point that voice has historically been a dark set of data that you really couldn't leverage at all. And so, I think it's one of those things, once you start using it and once you start, even if you turn it on for every call, just being able to see the summary of the call, right? Having it be able
Mm-hmm.
to summarize your email, it saves tons and tons of time, but you got to start using it. And I think um, for a lot of workers, it is somewhat intimidating, in some ways, but I think like I said, the learning curve can be pretty quick. But I do think from a channel perspective, Steve, it's a great opportunity to help customers understand what it can do, what it can be used for, what it can't be used for, right? It's not gonna, it's not, uh, you know, it's not a panacea to all your business problems, but it can solve a bunch of one. I think even just, when you think about the typical meetings that you do, if you've ever been in a company with that really A-type person that takes notes, right, and disseminates the notes to everybody, and then right
Mm-hmm.
before every meeting sends the meeting notes back out, and so everybody's prepared. I've kind of likened it to that what Copilot can do for you is be that personal assistant that a lot of high-paid executives have, but we don't have, and it can help you with not only the in-meeting stuff, which I think we've all gotten used to, but the pre and post-meeting benefits as well. And I think that again, for a channel partner, helping customers understand that meetings and phone calls and communications has a definite life cycle around it, right? And then how to apply Copilot to that entire collaboration life cycle, I think is a great opportunity for channel partners. And once you do that, then I don't think that $30 per user per month really becomes an issue at all. I think to me, it's kind of the biggest no-brainer out there. I'm a little bit concerned though, a lot of the competitive FUD out there, some give away, are giving it away, their versions of Copilot for free,
Sure.
and things like that. And I don't, what I don't want to see the industry do is go down a commodity route where just lowest price wins, because then everybody, frankly, then the big loser, that's the user. So I think we're still early enough in the cycle that innovation can be had and customers are willing to pay for it if it adds enough value. But I think the role of the channel here is really about adoption and understanding the best practices and how to use it and how to make sure that everybody in the company that has it is getting value from it. That's why when you look at a lot of the more advanced channel partners, they all have customer success organizations today. I think that's an absolute must to make sure that if people are paying for certain features and software, they're actually using them. Because one thing for you channel partners out there, people don't typically renew things they don't use. And so if your customers are buying something today, you want to have that customer success organization in place to make sure that they are actually using the things that they're paying for. And when you do that, then the renewal is actually pretty easy.
So shameless plug time. I actually wrote a blog post about, the ROI and the $30 a month. I'm actually going to put a link to it in the chat. Just for knowledge purpose, the average American knowledge worker earns about $34.75 an hour. So based on that, Copilot has got to return roughly, between 1 hour a month, roughly about an hour and a half a month in order to earn its keep. In my experience, and I will also couch that I'm a bit of a power user with this, but in my experience, I've seen, depending on how busy I am every week, anywhere from 1 to 4 hours of time returned to me. The time I used to spend writing emails and tracking action items and summarizing, and I was one of those that tried to kind of keep up with notes and everything else. The productivity gains are there, and this thing will return its investment in triplicate. But the thing you touched on, and I think that's important. One of my favorite podcasters, Scott Galloway, talks about AI is not going to take your job, at least today. But someone who knows how to use AI will absolutely be a threat to your employment. And I think the opportunity is there for channel partners and for service providers to offer what I kind of call, or he references sometimes as the picks and axes. Don't look at Copilot as a product that you're going to mark up and sell like in the traditional value-added reseller model. This is more along the lines of the real value, as you described it, is helping customers understand how to use it and how to properly really realize the benefits from it.
In fact, Steve, I think the story you told about it shedding some light on the interview process reminded me of a conversation I had with Scott Gutterman from the PGA Tour, where I was talking to them about what they're doing with generative AI. And he said in his mind, what generative AI does is it allows the untrained eye to see what the trained eye does. And, I'm sure there's a lot of really good interviewers out there that would have picked up a lot of the stuff that Copilot told you, right, about the people you interviewed. However, that's not your job, your everyday job, and you don't have that same trained eye or trained ear for interviews. Copilot can. And so I think, you're right that from a return on investment perspective, if all it does, and it does so much more of this, but if all it did was allow us to pick up the key points in the conversations we have with people, that alone is something that most of us don't have the time nor skills to do, right? And I think that story you gave was, like I said, it reminded me of that, where it allows us all now to have that trained eye. And again, from a channel partner perspective, that's your role, is to go out there and help customers maximize their investment on it. And it's not really that hard because there's a lot of capabilities built into Copilot. It's just getting customers over that hurdle.
Yeah, and the key is, to your point, if you just take Copilot out of the box, there's not a user experience to it. There's not really a instruction manual for it. It's really limited by your imagination. What questions do you ask of it, and what insights are you trying to pull out of it? So what would your advice be for channel partners listening that are looking to capitalize on the opportunity to help their customers get more from teams? Where do you start? Where do you pick your kind of low hanging fruit, to use the trite, saying in business, but what's the low hanging fruit for a channel partner who's looking at this saying, I need to see teams as an opportunity, not an obstacle?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is first to realize that there's a massive tailwind behind Microsoft Teams. And so there's two ways to treat a tailwind. One is you can fight it, and which I think some of your channel partners do, but that just creates a big headwind. So you can, use it as a tailwind for yourself. And so understand the momentum's there, customers want it. How do you capitalize on that? Well, for that, I think it's important to understand the capabilities of Teams and then pick an insertion point. Does your customer do a lot of messaging? Is there a fixed mobile convergence opportunity, right? There's, people do want to integrate this with their, traditional phone system. We talked about the consulting around Microsoft Teams. I know one of the things that, has been of interest is a lot of the carriers offer their own version of FMC or Mobile 3.0 or whatever companies are calling it, to me, when you do it through the carrier, that gets complicated very fast. I know SIPPIO has the partnership with Tango, which actually makes it more carrier independent. To me, that's an excellent opportunity to be able to actually make Teams, the mobile device, part of the overall, Teams calling environment without having to do software overlays and things like that. Some customers might be happy with it, but others may not. So there's a ton of opportunity between calling, messaging, FMC, Copilot. It's understanding your customer, what they're doing, and then pick the right insertion point for you. Once you get a foothold in there, you can then expand it out. And see, the classic land and expand. You just got to pick the right land, though.
Yeah, and I think the key is understanding that this is all modular now. In the old days, it was a monolithic platform that the customer had to adopt in whole in order to gain any type of benefit. This is all modular. So if somebody says, you know what, I'm not ready to move my calling to Teams, well, you've got SIPPIO Bridge now, you've got mobility, you've got text messaging, you got a lot of different ways to start the discussion. And then to your point, you start running those client success motions, and you just keep growing the sale, you keep growing your average revenue per user, and you increase the revenue, the relevance to those customers, and it makes you almost irreplaceable because they're seeing the value from what they're using. Taimur, same question.
One last
Go
thing
ahead.
on that too. And I do think with the rate of innovation that Microsoft's had, the ability to create an ongoing relationship when there's updates to Teams, to be able to go back in and help them understand what those updates are and how to use them. I know that's been one of the complaints users have had, not just with Teams, but with Zoom, WebEx, any of the other platforms. Innovation today is happening so fast that it's hard for users to keep up. And again, to me, that's a channel opportunity to be able to insert yourself, make sure you're meeting with your customer regularly, become almost part of that team, and make sure they know what the new features are. So they're actually getting value from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Taimur, same question, different audience. What would you advise service providers who are looking to accelerate their Operator Connect practice? Where do they kind of figure out, how do I accelerate sales velocity? How do I leverage the growing toolkits to help grow my success in this space?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, just again, a little bit contextual information before I answer that, right? So,
Sure.
Teams has enjoyed a really great trajectory of growth, both as a communications and collaboration platform, but also in the phone area. Number one cloud calling product in the world. We announced 20 million plus phone seats. Having said that, there's still a lot of our customers that have this ability to move their telephony environment to Teams, whether they're still on legacy or whether they're sweating an asset that they've invested in recently, and so on. There's a lot of places where that growth can come from in the enterprise space. However, I also believe that we have a very, very big opportunity in the small and medium business space as well. That space has been a little bit challenging because we rely completely on our partner ecosystem to be able to convert that. And so we have tons of things that we need to do to be able to help all of our small businesses realize the same value that they get from their office environment, also with Teams and Teams Phone in particular. So there's some awareness that we can do from a partner perspective. There's also a bunch of partner-to-partner motions that we need to be able to encourage and build to be able to get this done. For example, probably a smaller business doesn't have a large IT infrastructure or IT team that's going to help them figure out how do we take this environment and join it up with this environment and so on. And so we're looking for a lot of automation, a lot of process, a lot of digital customer journeys to be able to enable sort of that seamless integration. I'm a big believer of the fact that the SMBs, SMCs can get a lot of value from Teams Phone, which they're not getting today. And so that's something where I would really encourage operators as well as the partner ecosystem that's surrounding the operators, because that's also super important. Partners such as SIPPIO, who can provide sort of this platform to be able to do a lot of the digital enablement I was talking about. So I think that in my mind is key for growth in order to be able to get the most value out of Operator Connect.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that more and more operators are, kind of seeing the space. And you talked about the the adoption rate of Microsoft has just not slowed at all. And it's interesting because in 2020, it was an entirely different environment. Everybody needed a solution overnight. Nobody had a solution, or very few did. So it was just a greenfield for a channel partner. You could cast a net, you'd find 5 different opportunities. But in 2023, 2024, if this was a game of musical chairs, the music stopped and everybody had a tush and a cush. I mean, if you're talking to a customer today that doesn't have a video meeting solution figured out, how are they in business? And the thing that I find really interesting is that Microsoft, you touched on the 20 million seats. Those are the seats that have external calling enabled within Teams. And that is, I believe, dwarfs almost all of the rest of the UC marketplace for voice. But if you kind of widen the aperture out, there are, 380 million some odd users of the Teams platform, and that number continues to grow. That means Microsoft is pulling people out of the chair that they're occupying and bringing them to this platform, and it's that competitive displacement. So the solution continues to grow. There are more and more people adopting the Teams platform, and that creates more and more opportunity for service providers and channel partners, resellers, to help those customers transition to this modern communications era. So it's really unique in the industry that Microsoft continues to grow this footprint. I want to say your external calling grew, gosh, almost 100%, 85% over the last 18 months. I think the last report, it was like at 12 million seats. Now you're at 20 million seats. So tons of opportunity here for partners and operators to really accelerate into this space. And as new services and capabilities come on, it just further drives the interest. I mean, one of my favorite follows on LinkedIn is Juan Rivera, because it seems like every day that guy is posting, hey, new Teams update, new Teams update. And this isn't like, a Twitter 280 character, like, hey, there's a new, we fixed a bug and we're calling it a feature. He's got like 3 paragraphs of new stuff that's come to the platform. So it really, to Zeus's point earlier and to yours, this is where innovation is happening. And there's a ton of really exciting stuff. But I thought Zeus's point was really interesting too. And, you touched on this, operators being that concierge to help your customers stay ahead of what's happening on this platform and not to get overwhelmed by the innovation is crucial. So Tamor, where do you see the growth for Teams Phone moving forward? I know you talked a little bit about, kind of marketplaces and going upstream, downstream. What would you advise the growing Operator Connect marketplace to focus in and invest in order to gain an unreasonable share of that growth?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think that it just really depends, right? If you, as an operator, have been focusing on sort of this large enterprise segment where direct sales and a lot of the sort of slow moving things happen, where customers take some time, maybe there's RFP processes involved. I think that's fantastic, but I do think that there's a lot to be said about the SMB, SMC space. I know that we're going to be focusing on it a little bit more in terms of greasing some of those wheels. I think there's a really large opportunity for our partner ecosystem. In fact, the largest opportunity for our partner ecosystem is to grow there. And the challenges there are pretty simple, right? So there needs to be fantastic digital journeys. We understand that SMBs and SMCs potentially don't have a very high touch sort of situation when it comes to sales. So there needs to be really great self-service digital customer journeys where people can, buy the license, enable it all in one go. There can't be a large lead to cash to order scenario and circumstance. So building out sort of those flows, building out some of those journeys is going to be super important. I would encourage, and I do encourage all the operators that we work with to focus a lot on that particular journey, because the more seamless that is, the better it's going to be and the more growth we're going to be able to see. Because there's a lot of customers, trust me, in that smaller segment that are going to start to see the value in Teams Phone, especially now that you think about when we have Q's app and we have frontline worker licenses, Teams Essential licenses, so many more things that are coming to fruition for this particular smaller segment that I think the market is absolutely ripe.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm looking at stats right now really quick while you were talking. I looked these up. There are 6, 11, 12, there's almost 14,000 companies that are using Microsoft Teams today with 500 1 to 500 employees. And if you go up market, there are fewer companies in that footprint. From 500 to say 10,000, it looks like there are 2, 4, 8, 9,000, say 10,000 companies. So the critical mass is in that smaller SMB space. And I don't even want to call it SMB because 500 employee businesses are pretty hefty businesses, right? But to your point, they are looking for something different. They're not looking for kind of the opaque, here, let me build a quote. It's going to take a few days and it's going to have a bill of materials. It's 1.5 miles long. And, there's this kind of mystery around pricing and everything else. To me, it requires a more transparent, approach. And again, shameless plug, that's what we've really kind of been founded on, is we wanted to make things fast, easy, and flexible. We want to make the quoting experience as easy as shopping on Amazon. If you want to self-service, you should be able to hit a website and say, I need 5 seats, and I know what the costs are going to be. And if I place an order with new phone numbers, they should be active like that. That's how we consume things everywhere else in our life. But IT hasn't been that way historically, right?
Yeah, and the other opportunity there, just to add to that, is as Zeus was mentioning earlier, right? These smaller customers, they don't have a lot of IT staff to be able to keep up with the changes and the trends, right? And so the larger opportunity there for operators and all of our partners is to be able to provide a managed service, an end-to-end service, right? So not only do we provide network and services and capabilities and infrastructure, we'll also manage it for you. So if there's new feature additions or new capabilities that you want to turn on, or you want to learn about, or you want us to train your users about, that's a great opportunity for managed services to be able to do that. And it all comes down to how you package and bundle it, right? Operators are supposed to be the kings of bundling and packaging. So when you bundle and package not only your network services, but also the capability to provide sort of this deeper touch relationship with your customers, I think there's a lot of opportunity for A, our customers to get a lot more value, and B, our partners to make a lot more money as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is win-win right there. When everybody's getting value out of the chain, that's the key.
I think
did you want something?
Too, Steve, it's important to not think of the phone as the end game, right? Like they've been so telephony centric over the years that you might think, oh, if I got all these Teams phones, that's it. There's so much more to Teams than that, right? And to the customer, I think one of the things that Microsoft done a good job of is, historically, if you look at most of the traditional, UCaaS providers, is they've treated communications as its own silo, where Microsoft's made a part of the broader collaboration, work that companies do, and so it's become almost a feature of the broader collaboration story. And so I think service providers have a much better opportunity to broaden their scope within companies, become much better partners with them. But to do that, you can't think of the phone being the end game. It's really the starting point in a lot of cases.
Yeah, or it's just one of the mile markers along the race, right? Because you may start with text, you may start with customer experience, and then kind of work your way up as a partner, as a service provider. So I think there's tons of opportunity, and that's not even to talk about Copilot.
And important to support all of those, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And you and I were talking earlier about Copilot and just talking about some of the use cases, and I think a channel partner or a service provider who puts together an offer, start there, is going to find a lot of success helping those customers realize the minimal investment they make in Copilot to get that outsized return. For me, I spend $30 a month on Copilot. I probably get $120, $160 a month of productivity back. Win-win. But that doesn't have to be a one-off engagement either. I mean, this is one of those things that you constantly come up with new prompts, new ideas. It really is limited by your curiosity. So the idea of building a subscription offer for a customer to say, hey, I'm going to constantly be helping your users get the most of this solution, to use the Scott Galloway quote, it's going to secure their jobs because they're going to know how to use AI. And the people who don't know how to use AI are going to quickly find themselves antiquated in this environment. All right. Well, hey, I've reached the end of my questions. If there are any questions from the audience, feel free to put those into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll kind of grab them. I see somebody asked already, Tamor, how many users are on the Teams platform? You answered that just for the recording. 320 million monthly active users on Microsoft Teams. And only 20 million of those have external calling enabled. So that means there's a tremendous opportunity for a channel partner or a service provider to jump into this market. Even though it's rapidly growing, it's still a lot of room for you to get in here. It's still early stages, so you can get in and really kind of accelerate into that growth. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat. I don't see anything yet. So I'm going to just say thank you to both of you. I think this has been a great discussion. I really enjoy, getting to chat with you guys overall. If you haven't already, feel free to reach out to both Zayas and Tamor on LinkedIn. Send them a LinkedIn request. Both of them are great follows. And, I really want to thank them for joining us today to talk through about the opportunity of Teams and to understand the value of Copilot and where all of our audience, customers, channel partners, resellers, MSPs, service providers, and carriers can jump into this market and find opportunities to succeed and grab an outsized share of the growth that Microsoft is creating in the market for Teams and Teams Phone. So Zayas, Tamor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. So just to kind of recap the week ahead, this afternoon, we've got a really exciting session set up for Microsoft Teams Phone. So you'll get even more information on how you can lower your cost of ownership, how you can increase productivity, how you can harness innovation, and how you can best leverage the platform you're using with calling or in other capabilities. Again, the rest of the week, we've got the analyst event on tomorrow morning. We've got an innovation roadmap with George. Do not miss that. There's a lot of really exciting stuff that George is working on with the team to bring to the SIPPIO platform. I'm most excited about the AI work that they're working on to make quoting as easy as a conversation and to empower end users to get rid of all the clicks. On Wednesday, we're dedicated to our partners. So if you're a service provider and you want to learn more about how, what Tamor described and how you can leverage SIPPIO and how you can join into this marketplace to expand and enhance what you already have deployed, no throwaway investments, how you can accelerate sales velocity with your reps, how you can better serve the SMB and SMC markets, leveraging automation with a more self-service approach. Don't miss that session on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon, if you're a reseller or channel partner and you want to learn more about how you can turn Teams into an opportunity instead of an obstacle, make sure you join our Operator Connect launch with SIPPIO session. You'll get everything you need there and more. And then Thursday, again, we're bringing in the fleet. So we've got our partners and friends joining us from Tango, from Tollring, from Solgari, and from ClerkChat. So you'll learn all about mobility, customer engagement, and messaging on the Teams platform. And then Friday, again, if you're a channel partner or reseller, make sure you join us to learn more about SIPPIO Bridge. It'll give you the ability and the sales strategies to understand how you can help your customers build a bridge from their legacy to their future, whether it's Teams or Zoom or beyond. And then Friday, we'll wrap it up with a closing panel. So again, my name is Steve Forkham. I'm Director of Program Management here at SIPPIO. I again want to make one last thank you to Jeremy Friedberg from Friedberg PC for joining us and sharing his experience. I want to thank Zayas and Tamor again for joining to share their industry experience and views. And I want to thank you, our customers, our channel partners, our service providers, who are all helping us create a more engaging future for our end customer organizations, leveraging next generation communications to increase productivity and to really kind of increase our outputs overall. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me at steve.forkham@sippio.io, or you can visit our website, sippio.io, for more information. Thanks, everybody.